Hello everyone, and welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of Fal.Con 2025 here at the MGM Grand. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside Dave Vellante, my co-host and analyst. I would like to welcome two guests to the show. Kevin Urbanowicz, he is a principal at Deloitte. Welcome, Kevin. And back to the show, Chris Richter, Senior Managing Director at Deloitte. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
So I want to start by asking you both, because you both have sort of different spheres of influence and where you work. But how have client expectations around managed detection and response changed in terms of what you're hearing about today, what the concerns, what's keeping them up at night, versus, say, 4 or 5 years ago? Kevin, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is for a long time we had a human problem, right? It's human capacity, do we have the right people, are they trained? Because cybersecurity, there's a lot of data, a lot of threats, a lot of alerts getting thrown out. And as we've seen the AI revolution kind of take over, there's a light at the end of the tunnel that maybe I don't need as many humans, maybe I can actually do more with less. AI had to kind of get there and improve that value, but we've seen that catch on, and so there's I think a pivotal moment where it's, I don't need as many humans now, and I can actually start trusting AI and automation and those types of things to enable my capabilities, MDR or otherwise.
Okay, and you're really focused on the US, so this is what?
My primary focus is the US market, correct.
Okay, and Chris, you're more global, so what are you hearing?
So managed detection and response, or MDR, has been on this long evolutionary cycle. It's a typical wave where you have individuals and organizations ahead of the wave that moved from traditional internally managed SOCs and MSS to MDR, which is really a standardized platform, standardized technology back end to improve automation. But that wave has a very long tail, and on the back end of that tail are individuals that still have disorganized SOCs. They have multiple SOCs within the same organization. They're using traditional MSS, traditional SOCs, which aren't working anymore. And those back-end individuals are realizing that they need to catch up quickly. The ones at the forefront beat the wave, and they're the ones that are realizing, I think they're the ones that are most concerned and excited at the same time about artificial intelligence. So in terms of how expectations are changing, it depends on where you are on that evolution. The ones out here want AI now. The ones back here just want their mess cleaned up and want to move to a standardized environment.
Chris, when you last came on in 2023 here at Fal.Con, you said at the time that Crowdstrike enabled you to go from an indicator of compromise to an indicator of attack.
Right.
And I'm curious as to, and that was it was less than 12 months into the whole, Gen AI wave. What have you observed since that time, and how has that, what you said back then, affected your business and your customers, your clients' businesses today?
Well, that's it. First of all, you've got an amazing memory. That's really good. But
AI helps.
Okay, we got to ask AI.
that's still indicator
My
of
AI.
IOC's indicators of compromise. Basically, you're going into a log, looking into the past, and discovering you've already been compromised. Indicator of attack means that you're currently under attack. I think we're moving to more of a predictor of attack mode now. So we are beginning to use large language models, baseline analysis, to look at network traffic and network flows to see what can predict an attack. So an indicator attack says, I'm under attack right now, I need to stop it, which Crowdstrike is really good at, but they are also building tools that help with predictors of attack.
So I was hoping that the answer was something along those lines. We were just talking to Ilya, who was the CTO of Crowdstrike, and he was talking about their graph and their map and their abstraction layer and all this cool stuff. And the takeaway, and to tie it into this conversation, is generally speaking, we've been pretty good with analytics at what happened and why did it happen, but we haven't been really good at what's going to happen next or what should we do next. And that's where I think you're headed. I don't think we're there yet. But
predictive analytics, right? And we use the term shift left, right? We want to find something that's happening before it becomes a problem on the network, right? If it's already compromised or an indicator compromised, that's sort of further right than we want to be. So we now have access to all this data, technology's caught up, AI and other things have helped. Our ability to do that predictive analysis, the modeling to understand this looks like it might be headed in a bad direction, therefore I want to investigate it sooner, proactively do threat hunting or those types of things to kind of find those earlier in the cycle.
So we tend to be, the marketing is always ahead of the customer adoption. In theCUBE we get excited about things like, agent builders and security AGI. The reality is that the clients move a little slower. So what are you hearing from customers today? What are their main pressing concerns in the context of cybersecurity?
So like Kevin, we walk around the show floor, we have a lot of dinners and meetings with CISOs at the show and elsewhere. One of my favorite quotes was at dinner last night. I was speaking to a CISO of a major services firm. And I said, what keeps you up at night? His answer was yes. So, which I think is, things haven't changed. The attack surface is broadening, but the types of attacks, even though they're getting more sophisticated, it's the same issues that kept CISOs awake 5 years ago. They're just happening faster, and they're happening with greater accuracy and more destructive capability.
I heard Jamie Dimon on the Acquired podcast, and the guys asked him, what keeps you up at night? Is it credit risk? Is it overvaluation? He said, no, cybersecurity.
It's still a CEO executive level challenge. I think what's changed maybe in pretty recently, I'll say like 6 to 12 months as we have these conversations, is the pressure from the CEOs down to be progressive about adopting AI, to lean into it. And if you're not doing something in AI as a CISO right now, you're going to feel behind, right? And you're going to get that pressure. And so the adoption push is happening top down, which is different, right? Cybersecurity used to have to go to the board, ask for money, beg for new capabilities. That's coming downwards now because the AI revolution, while it affects the business and they're using it to enable business, they realize it's a way to not only do better cybersecurity, save money, find those things. So I think the adoption's actually increased quite a bit.
What's Deloitte's operational protocol? Because you guys are in the security practice. You got another side of the business that's like, yeah, let's go build agents for clients. How do you guys work together to ensure that when that side of the house is driving that innovation with customers, we make sure we're not just bolting on agentic security, but it's inherent?
One way we've looked at this is the same way that we think about like ERP security. So we do large SAP implementations, Oracle implementations, and we always do them secure by design, right? So we don't go do them without bringing cybersecurity to the table because we don't want to build something for a customer that's not going to be secure. As we're building our own AI platforms, we have our own agentic platforms, we go to market and we have different things in different industry verticals, we're always bringing it with security or with the guardrails in place that we know our customers either need or are going to ask for. In many cases they're not asking for it because they don't realize it yet. We want to proactively bring that cybersecurity message to them.
So we are in, as George Kurtz said, the era of the agentic SOC. And Crowdstrike has come out with so many AI-driven products and services and announcements this week. Where do you see the balance between the expert-led threat hunting, the human, I should say, threat hunting, as well as AI-driven detection? How do you see those working hand in glove?
So
start with you, Kevin.
The first place AI starts to do things are the lower hanging fruit. The threat hunting's a more advanced skill set. A lot of those people have 10 to 15 years of experience, and so that human has experience that's not usually easily replicated in AI. But I think the thing that we see people starting to recognize is we divide things into people, process, technology. People, humans, have a limited capacity of what they can do, 8-hour working day, the brain itself, how much it can process, and the technology was a limiting factor. Now we have hyperscalers, we do this compute at large, so large data sets are now accessible, so the technology's changed. The people can now be augmented with AI, whether that's Gen AI or Gen whatever, so we now have changed the people side. The process though, it hasn't changed. And so we look at the process, we say we built these processes based on those human, the people and the technical limitations, why don't we rethink the process, right? So the idea of a threat hunter, the idea of an L1 SOC analyst, those were human defined roles and processes. Now we're rethinking the whole people process technology because the ability for an agentic AI to say, I'm not just doing threat hunting, I'm doing threat intelligence, I'm doing detection engineering, I'm forking out all these different processes, reimagining actually how the SOC works.
So that says we're not just going to, I call it paving the cow path and say, all right, we're going to automate processes that were decades old.
And we're starting there, right? And that's where people are getting comfortable, you're getting the quicker wins, but quickly we're realizing the long road of where this is going is actually rethinking the whole people process technology
Okay,
paradigm.
so you're hitting a few singles, to use a baseball analogy, so get some quick ROI, quick hits, get some muscle memory going, and then the hard work begins. So I love the message that Michael Santonis laid out this morning and George yesterday on the Agentic SOC. Rebecca and I were talking, a lot of these practitioners are going to go back, they're going to be excited, they're going to talk to their managers, and then they're going to have to do a business case. It's going to take some time, they have to get it funded, they have to look at the assets that are on the balance sheet, they're maybe not fully depreciated. The process has gravity. And so our assumption is this is going to take some time, maybe the better part of a decade, and then we'll look back and say, wow, look how far we've come, and it won't feel like that, like mobile. What do you guys, how do you see the roadmap? Because you guys sit down with clients and say, okay, here's where you are today, you do the maturity model, here's what's possible based on best practice, what's that bell curve look like? Take us through the journey and the evolution. How long do you think that's going to take? Does AI make it different? I think there's an assumption out there, AI is just going to happen like that.
Yeah.
And then everybody's sort of, is there a bubble? So we go back and forth. What are you guys seeing? Because you're close to customers here.
Well, it is definitely a journey, and it begins with, and this is based on client feedback, what do they want to achieve with AI? They want outcomes. So you start with, what outcomes are you trying to achieve? Because you can automate just about anything. The quality of that automation is another matter altogether. And there isn't one AI agent that's going to do everything. It's usually a series of agents that have very specific bespoke functions. They've got to communicate with each other. Those agents have to be protected. You have to watch out for shadow AI. So what this means is all of this has to fit within an AI governance model that helps you plan based on the outcomes that you're looking for, and then you build an AI plan to deliver on that, protect the AI, and manage it and sustain it going forward. And there's one of those processes for every type of outcome that you're looking for. There are new governance frameworks that are emerging. NIST came out with one, the AI risk management framework, about 3 years ago. The European Union came out with an AI framework that has very strict big teeth associated with that, like penalties that are tied to sales. So I think we advise our clients, like, let's stay within those boundaries and take a methodical approach, keeping governance in mind.
You mentioned maturity models, right? When we think about traditional consulting, like where am I today, where am I going to go?
Right.
That's based on a knowledge of sort of what good looks like and where 2 to 3 years down the road. I think AI has blown up maturity models a little bit, right? To my comment earlier about we got to rethink the whole process. When we look at the maturity evolution of a company, yes, we don't know where we're going to be 3 or 5 years from now. We know things are moving fast, but I think it's now a foregone conclusion. AI is not like a thing that is just going to be fancy and shiny for a while. It is the future. And so putting the building blocks in place to get there, AI only works with data, right? So do I have the right data? Is it centralized? And so getting some of those foundational components in place, knowing that those are going to be the stepping stones to actually getting to those AI evolutions that they're looking for.
But you're suggesting it's maybe it's a non-linear journey potentially, which is important. I mean, we're always, theorizing, is this like the internet? What are the similarities? What are the differences? And it seems to me that, there's a premise out there that AI native companies are going to emerge with much more streamlined workflows, 1/10 the cost, 1/10 the, 10x the value, 1/10 the number of employees. Probably true. It really disruptive. But based on what you just said, Kevin, companies have the opportunity to sort of cut the line.
A lot of disruption. There's a lot of existential risk for small, large businesses alike, right? When we look at our business, we're a human company, and I think AI, it disrupts humans. And so looking at where is AI going to be able to take over a particular human role, that was different than the internet. Internet was just a technology. And so now we're using both technology and human augmentation in ways that we've never thought about before.
I mean, Andy Jassy's hardcore on this. He talks all the time about how he's cutting layers and rethinking the organization, trying to change the culture. It's hard for a $100 billion company.
Indeed.
But especially if you're entrenched, especially if you're doing really well, to say, okay, we're going to we're going to pivot
Yeah.
to be AI native as opposed to riding the wave. I mean, how many times have we seen companies just fall behind because of this? So,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
your client, you are vested in helping your clients, because you got large clients, not get disrupted. I mean, that's the real
and
opportunity for you.
not be disrupted themselves as
Wh-
Deloitte.
Which
as
is,
the
yeah, to my
human-
comment earlier, that's where you're getting the top-down pressure.
Yeah.
Like, smart CEOs, boards realize that. They're asking those questions and they're saying, we have to stay in business. What could disrupt us, and how do we make sure we stay ahead of that?
Right.
And that's not a cyber thing, right? That's a whole of an organization.
And what is our value beyond what the human value?
And again, most companies, they were built by humans. The functions, the way they organize themselves, were based on the way humans worked and the capacity of a human. You have to rethink that entire concept across the entire business.
Wow.
Michael Dell told us this. He said a couple years ago, he called the whole company together and said, look, we're going to be out of business if we don't disrupt ourselves. So as of today, we are disrupting ourselves. And by all accounts, they've started to do that. So they're a big company, $100 billion company.
That requires process and planning. We have a cybersecurity AI blueprint set of offerings. They cover specific outcome-related journeys. One of them is governance. So we're beginning to introduce those to our clients to begin that journey and that process with them. But you can't just implement it and walk away. It needs care and feeding. The language models need care and feeding. If you feed them the wrong information, you can get a bad outcome.
So Kevin, you're suggesting that a lot of your clients have top-down support for this. What about the fat middle and the bottoms up? Is there as much momentum and enthusiasm there? How would you compare it to previous waves?
I see something very different here, right? The bottom up has always been, we want new shiny tools, we want to adopt latest and greatest because it makes their jobs easier, that's cool. And then they didn't have the support, the financial support, or the management support. The management support's there now. There's a realization at top and bottom that we have to do this and we have to do it together. And so just the pilots, the POCs, the asks that we're getting now have changed drastically in the last 6 to 12 months.
Excellent.
There's a big discussion is, you see the MIT study. I don't buy it, by the way, that 95%.
Yeah.
I think
It
that's
was good news for us.
yes, but I do think it's a little bit overstated. But my question to you is, what are you actually seeing? We talked earlier about hitting singles. What are you seeing specifically in cyber? It seems to me that the ROI in cyber with AI is potentially like coding, more tangible than it maybe is in some other mainstream workflows. What are you seeing?
It starts in places that are obvious, but I think what we're quickly seeing is the application of the less obvious ones, and Agentic helps that, right? And it's sort of like, okay, I needed to do a specific task, and then when it gets to the end of that task, then what, right? Then do I turn it over to human, and you start building out these workflows and automations around the AI and the agent, realizing that every step of the way, these are just decisions that humans were making that we now can trust an AI model to potentially replicate. So coding is a very sort of logical thing that SOC analysts, they have a playbook that they follow, but as we get into more philosophical areas where there needs to be a little bit more thought that goes into it, that's now going into the model as well. So to me, the point that we're starting to figure out is, what do I trust my AI to do? And there's a human in the loop, I got to watch what it's doing, but that trust is quickly going to grow to where we want them to do more and more beyond just basic tasks.
So if I translate that into financial terms, there is an ROI, the break-even period's probably pretty quick, but the net present value ain't moving the needle the way we want it to, and some of those big agentic initiatives are where that's going to happen, but they're more risky.
Excellent.
Risky, but we're absolutely seeing real ROI, tangible ROI in our own business, right? We run large managed security operations for our customers, so we have a lot of human resource that goes into that, and so anytime that we can automate or add AI, which we've done, and we're seeing real tangible value, and then we're building those same capabilities in our client environments. It starts as, hey, we're going to pilot this, we've done it, we've proved it out, why don't you try this? And then they see the value, and that's snowballing.
A
And that's
virtuous circle.
And that's where are you seeing that? Sales, go-to-market, delivery,
All.
marketing, across the board,
Across the board.
coding.
Every function that we look at within security operations has an AI capability that is being built or has already been built.
Very
Excellent.
cool.
Well, Kevin and Chris, thank you both so much
Thanks,
for coming
guys.
on
Thank you.
theCUBE. A great conversation.
Thank you all so
Pleasure.
much, appreciate the opportunity.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Dave Vellante. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's live coverage of Fal.Con 2025. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.